Hello, legends. My guest today, boy, wow, we're going to be talking about all things trauma related, anxiety, etc., mental health. Um, I'm fascinated to chat with Tanya because when you look at what's going on in the world, I think an awful lot of people are battling trauma and they don't even realize it. And with everything that we're up against, particularly in this country where we're kind of getting a bit battered at the moment by the illegal immigration, and the
Mhm.
media don't seem to be on our side and the politicians just seem to be completely absent. I would suggest that we're all being played, and I would suggest the thing that we're being played on is that deep down we're all traumatized, many of us from childhood, and we don't even know it. And if you don't know your enemy, then you know that makes you susceptible to further manipulation, abuse. So
Mhm.
let's go and meet our guest. Tanya, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you today?
Yes, I'm absolutely wonderful. I'm just going to read off the bit of script you sold me, so I don't. You sent me, rather. You sold me. You sent me, so I don't do you an injustice. With over
Sure.
20 years' experience as a licensed professional counsellor, you specialise in supporting young people and adults navigating the challenges of post traumatic stress, anxiety, and depression. You're rooted in evidence-based practice, which we all should be, and you've got a deep compassion for healing individuals and families, and that's good because so have I. Um, yes, funny thing, isn't it? Like I said at the beginning, there, if you were to ask, yeah, I speak to a lot of veterans. I'm climbing Mount Everest in April to shine a
Wow.
light for all those veterans out there who are still struggling like I once did.
Mhm.
I also, though, I'm honestly feel, Tanya, like I'm the only person, I think I am, that is speaking out and saying we've got a massive veterans mental health problem. We've got a crazily high suicide rate. All of us know many people now. Lovely, lovely. I was in the Marines, so and our Marines are all male at the moment. So lovely
Mhm.
lads. I'm
Mhm.
just dealing with some stuff around one chap that I was interacting with now, and it's awful just reading back through the lovely messages he sent me, and then he killed himself. And
Yeah.
I want to say, hey, why is nobody talking about the elephant in the room? Is childhood trauma. We all went through,
Mhm.
I say we all, every Marine veteran I speak to goes, yeah, Chris, we had quite challenging childhoods, didn't we? I'm like, yeah, we did.
Mhm.
Wasn't that the reason you joined up? Yeah. Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
reason I joined up. So sorry if I've gone a bit long winded there,
It's
Tanya.
okay.
I
I
just,
hear very similar stories that you hear from veterans or active duty members or even like their families. That is a lot of why people do join up because they're trying to escape chaotic childhoods. But we don't often shed light onto childhood trauma, especially if you grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the early 90s. It really has not become a movement until the 2000s and now to really recognize that trauma is at the root of everything.
yes, absolutely. And it also makes you manipulatable, if that's even a word. Um,
Hmm.
we when you look at the general public, sorry, might have sounded a bit of an obscure introduction to you. It's just this country is in absolute upheaval at the moment, Tanya. I tell you what,
Yes.
you guys know revolution. We're
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of at that stage, but everyone's a bit too traumatized to sort of actually do anything. And I'm not suggesting that they do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that there's a lot of projecting going on, a lot of shoutiness and a lot of blaming this and blaming that. There isn't
Mm-hmm.
a lot of work being done to look inside the shadow work, as
Right.
I believe it's called. Am I making a bit of sense?
You are, yeah. And I think it's really, we are still in that phase of destigmatizing mental health and that it's okay to have mental health. And it is a good thing to work on yourself because, as you referenced, in the beginning, many people hide it. And then we do have very, very high suicide rates, both in the military and in the general population, because of just the stigma behind mental health. And I, as a practitioner, really work to destigmatize mental health as much as possible and normalize it for people that it's okay. Like you're not broken. There's not something that is innately and eternally wrong with you. There's just some things that you have to work on and you can come out on the other side.
Yeah, and you're going to come out. It's a cheesy quote, but you're going to come out a better person for it.
Yeah.
Not just better than you were, but better than the majority because they haven't had that
hmm
experience. And would you agree, Tanya, that empathy is a big part of this? Because to heal yourself from trauma and work out what the hell's been going on in my life and why have I got in this state, you've got to learn to love yourself.
Yes. And that's a huge part of it too. That's a huge part that drives anxiety, because anxiety lies to us on a regular basis, in our brain and tells us things that aren't true. But when we have so much trauma, and increased anxiety, we start to believe those things, especially if those are messages that came from our childhood as well.
Yes. Can I peel it back to the veterans? Because what I'm
Yeah, go
seeing,
ahead.
you know, no one will talk about this, but when so many people are taking their own lives, and I'm going
hmm
to be crass here, and I don't apologize, it's because they're crap at life. They haven't,
Yeah.
they can't deal with it. And I'm
hmm
not, I should make a caveat here. I'm obviously not talking about people that are deeply mentally scarred from some of the
hmm
hideous stuff that's gone on in, for example, Afghanistan.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, there's a few things here. Is first of all, no matter how much hideous stuff you go through as now, and I've been through some stuff. My best friend drowned on our holiday, and I had his dead body at my feet, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it even more traumatic because we was absolutely off our heads at the time, and I had to deal with all the police, the interviews, the morgue, whilst
Mm,
being a little bit sideways with the
yeah.
world. But you know what? I was an adult and I
hmm
compartmentalized it. I kissed him goodbye and went, "Sorry, mate, I'm never going to
Sure.
think about this again." And I
Yeah.
literally, as I walked away, the other lad we were with, he just had a complete breakdown. He couldn't,
hmm
and he was like, "Why are you not upset?" I said, "Because I can't go down that route. I've been depressed. I've been anxious before. Not doing it again. I
hmm
love that guy. He loved me. And if he was standing up now, he'd say, 'Chris, just go on and live your life, mate. Don't,
Yeah.
write this one off.'" And that's exactly what I did. I'm not
hmm
I'm not a complete sociopath, Tanya. I did have a good cry about a month later,
Yeah.
funnily enough. It just like hit me out
Yeah.
of the blue. I had a good cry over some tea bags, believe it or not. I won't explain that. Um, and then I went on and lived a legendary life. And, because I'm
Yeah.
an adult, that trauma is not deeply buried inside me.
Right.
And what we're seeing with the veterans is, yes, you may well have seen something horrible in combat. Most veterans don't have a horrible time. It's only very small
Hmm.
percentage of
Yeah.
soldiers that actually see service, and an even smaller percentage that
Hmm.
actually get to see, witness something particularly, horrifying. And so,
Hmm.
sorry again, I'm being a bit long-winded, but this is a subject really close to my heart, and I'm suggesting that no, these soldiers are leaving the forces. They're facing all the usual challenges that people have in life, an idiot boss, paying the bills,
Hmm.
da 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 da.
Hmm.
And what's happening is that voice is coming up from an absent father, or an abusive father,
Hmm.
or a
Hmm.
neglectful mother, and you're going, you're no good. You're just nobody likes you. You're
Hmm.
rubbish. Yeah, they're all talking about you, but and because of our troop mentality, the massive indoctrination we went through in our training
Hmm.
period, which took me, a guy, I just wanted to join up because it looked like a great fun job. I never
Yeah.
thought about killing.
Right.
When I came out of training, it was like, right, who can I kill as quick as possible to prove I can do this job? So
Yeah.
sorry, like I say, bit long winded, but no apologies, folks. This is, you know, I've got Tanya here. I'm never going to be able to ask, someone like yourself this again.
Hmm. Yeah. It definitely is. Like you said, when you talk about the training and the indoctrination and then the coming out and going back into civilian life, that's very difficult. And trauma is rooted in the brain. So whether you're remembering childhood trauma or you didn't recognize that you had childhood trauma, your body never forgets. So the brain is always going to come back and remind you if it feels like you're in that same position again. And it's going to whether it's sending signals to your body, giving you headaches, giving you stomach aches, giving you anxiety, flashbacks, it's going to always come back if it stays unresolved because it keeps the score and it will always go through with you throughout your life, especially moving back into the civilian world.
Yes, I think that you nailed it. That's exactly what we're seeing. Why do you think it is, Tanya, that, for example, myself, I got so low that I had an epiphany.
Hmm.
I couldn't get lower. It literally woke me up a bit, and I thought, hang on a sec, what have I done here? And I just started to take action to stop doing the behaviors that had sent my life out of control, which obviously was taking drugs, and bad thinking, negative
Hmm.
thinking. I What's the difference then when someone doesn't get to that point, and they end up taking their life?
Hmm.
It, it I'm just wondering what what the difference here is, if that makes sense.
Some of it goes back to um, not necessarily like resiliency, but who are your supports in your life? Do you have a support system? Do you have a family? Do you have just friends that are like your family, that are behind you, supporting you, um, cheering for you, checking on you? Some people who don't have any of that can fall deeper and deeper into that kind of abyss of depression, or if they're just coming out into civilian life into very non-supportive situations, that can definitely make it worse as well. So I think that that's kind of some of the difference that we see too, and the access to mental health care or just medical care through the VA and the different VAs in the different states of the availability of the resources that people have to them too.
Yes, of course. There's something here that I can't put my finger on, but I'm trying to sum up. You see, I didn't have
Sure.
any of that support. I couldn't go to the medical
Okay.
community.
Okay.
They didn't get me as a veteran, as a quite an
Yeah.
independent person. I didn't want them mucking around with my life. They kept trying to
Sure.
give me these drugs and do this and do. And
Yeah.
I was just like, you don't. You're trying to treat me like a normal person. No disrespect to normal people, but veterans are not
Hmm.
normal people.
Right.
We are a. We've lived a crazy life, you know,
Yeah.
and we're fiercely proud of yada yada yada. But my thing was, there's something in me from my upbringing
Hmm.
that, like, I don't give a shit about any other what support. The less support I have, the more just I'm I'm like more proud of myself, Tanya. If that makes sense.
That does make sense because you are accomplishing it on your own and being able to kind of pull yourself out of that abyss. Some people have that innate ingrained in them, and other people don't have that opportunity to have ever felt that. And that's where therapy comes in, is really helping, as a practitioner, when we, go back to empathy, is really helping people to find that within themselves, because going to therapy isn't about, me telling you, oh, do X, Y, and Z. It's about me developing, a tailored treatment plan with you to really help you heal. But I'm just the guide and the map, and, getting people to do the work within themselves so they can have that feeling that you have. And I'm so grateful that you do have that feeling and that you've been able to do that for yourself.
I'm so grateful we're having this conversation, Tanya, and I tell you why, because I just thought of something.
Hmm.
Even though our family, my family growing up was chaotic, I think my parents got remarried about, I think it's 5 times between them now.
Hmm.
I went to 6 schools before I was like 11 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I had so many step parents come and go that it's like I forgot their names. I'm
Hmm.
joking, of course, but it were and that was just the relationship stuff going on. The other stuff going on, I don't I don't even talk about.
Hmm.
But one thing my dad used to say, because I think he recognised a lot of what I was going through with like different stepdads and stuff,
Hmm.
is one time he said to me, son, there's nothing wrong with you.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with you. And I knew what he was trying to tell me, Tanya. He was trying to
Hmm.
say, you're going to get a lot of shit in this life, son. And you, excuse my French, but you just got to treat them like wankers.
Hmm.
If you
Yeah.
got to love yourself and
Hmm.
understand they're the ones with a problem. It ain't you. And I think maybe that was something that gave me this determined personality.
Hmm. Yeah, that's definitely, because that's a positive message from your childhood, despite your childhood being chaotic. There was somebody who gave you that positive message to hold on to, and you were able to kind of find the wherewithal and hang on to that, um, to be able to do the work.
Yeah, because I'm picturing another veteran in my situation who maybe didn't have a dad that told him those things, maybe didn't have a dad on the scene at all. He's
Hmm.
going to be there, like I was living in squalor,
Hmm.
but he isn't going to have that self belief, and he might genuinely think that no one's going to miss him, which is so sad because everybody's
Right.
massively loved from what I can see.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know where to um, really begin, but let's just go with anxiety.
Okay.
It's a big thing, isn't it?
It's a huge thing. I would say probably everybody experiences some type of anxiety across their life at some point in time. whether it's, a full-blown anxiety disorder or it's situational. Anxiety is very prevalent in everybody's everyday worlds.
How come then, Tanya, right? I used to hear the word anxiety growing up, and until I was 29, I had no clue what it was because I
Mhm.
never experienced it, right?
Mhm.
And it was only after doing too many drugs that one day, and I can remember when it was, I was going off to Africa to work with street children in Mozambique as a volunteer worker. This is like part of my recovery, it's like something
Yeah,
I had to go and help other people now,
sure.
being in service, they call it, don't they?
Hmm.
And I was packing all my stuff, and I started to get this weird sort of shaky feeling
Hmm.
that I'd never had before. And my neighbour happened to come in. She was a lovely girl called Sarah. We were good friends. She knew I'd been through a lot. And she said, "You're going to be all right. You'll,
Hmm.
you know, you'll be fine." And that was it. It
Hmm.
really leveled me. And I was like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
what was I think? What was I thinking? I've done, I've got on aeroplanes, gone abroad so many times,
Hmm.
and then, funnily enough, when I got to South Africa, to I needed a connecting flight to Mozambique. I met this girl in South Africa, and she stayed at the backpackers where where we stayed, and she looked at me and said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Oh, I've been getting this nervous like feeling," and she
Hmm.
said, "Don't worry about a thing,
Uh,
'cause every little thing's gonna be alright." And I was like, you know, it's everything's always fine,
yeah,
isn't it? Everything.
it is. Yeah.
And I won't say that put, my future anxieties to bed, because I've had periods in my life where I've totally forgot that wonderful advice she gave me. I don't really think there's probably anything I could have done anyway, and I've really experienced it pretty hardcore. So,
Hmm.
what is it then when we're experiencing anxiety?
It's fear and it's lies that our head tells us that it's not going to work out. And or we might if we've messed up before and we're trying to make it better that we're just going to continue to mess up. And anxiety is very much so a chemical imbalance of your brain that can happen, whether it's extremely severe or, just situational things. But it's rooted in fear of failure and going back to places that you don't want to go back to.
Yes, a couple of things come to mind here then. So it's triggering your flight, fight, or freeze mechanism. So your
Yep.
natural sort of flooding your body with cortisol, isn't it? So
Yes. And
adrenaline.
and adrenaline. Yep. Hmm.
And also that when this is happening a lot, you end up in a hypervigilant
Hmm.
state where not only are you more easily triggered, but the effects get worse and worse.
Yes, they do, because your brain can kind of get stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze state the more you experience anxiety. And then that's how it becomes worse and worse, is when the brain continues to send signals that there's danger or that something bad is going to happen. And that's where we rework to interrupt like those synapses that are being sent and those messages that are being sent with different modalities of therapy.
Yeah, we'll come on and talk about those. So, am I right then? If I was to say, when we lived, say, in the nature with our tribes or our our clan, that we'd be out there, going about our day, probably trying to stay dry, trying to gather food, move in from one, area where we collected our food to the next place we could get some, and we'd hopefully live in some sort of nirvana.
Mhm.
And that peace would only really be shattered when we had to fend off a predator or
Mhm.
possibly another tribe. But when that was over, we'd go back to being a peaceful, kind of in harmony with a nature type of being.
Yeah.
But what we've got now in society is the opposite. We perceive we're being attacked all day long, whether it's putting
Hmm.
someone on the phone, reading a social media comment, um,
Hmm.
you know, going into the workplace and wondering who the hell's upset with you today, or have you maybe
Hmm.
not done your job properly. And then of course you get these medical narratives which just scare the hell, the kind of propaganda side of it that just scares the hell out of
Hmm.
people and leaves them terrified. And even just go outside the front door, you've got cars whizzing along. It's
Yeah.
a ton of metal doing 50, or in our case 70 mile an hour.
Hmm.
It it's easy to get into this sort of hyper stress state. Is that
It
right?
is because media plays a big part in it now. We live in a much more technological society where we hear about all of the horrible negative things that happen in the world, and we don't often hear about enough of the good things. We hear about all those awful negative things through the news, through Facebook, through Instagram, TikTok, um, and we don't get enough of the warm and fuzzy, so to speak, of what the world is. And the world then becomes a very, very scary place and a very stressful place.
Yes, absolutely. This is why more and more people I associate with now, we don't watch the media.
Hmm.
Um, Certainly don't watch the mainstream media, but
Yeah.
I think sometimes the alternative media can be just as bad if all it's doing is terrifying, frightening
Hmm.
you every time you turn it on. So what what are the uh, possible courses of action then? So for someone watching now, they're recognizing what we're talking about. What can they do, Tanya? Obviously, they can contact your good self. Tanya's
Hmm.
details will be below the video, friends.
So a lot of the things that we talk about in therapy go back to kind of self-care and boundaries and learning who in your life serves you and who doesn't. So, and I don't mean like takes care of you or waits on you hand and foot, but more like serves your inner peace inside of you. Like, are people causing chaos in your life? Are there other relationships that are more peaceful? Is your work environment just a very toxic place that maybe a change in work environment would help? But not letting others steal that inner peace by, uh, you know, spreading their toxicity. It's very much what the phrase that your dad had told you is there is often something wrong with someone else. And that's how our inner worlds get shaken up is by, allowing people to, so to speak, persuade us that there is something wrong with us and the way that we handle things. But if we have firm boundaries and are not afraid to say yes or no to something, are not in relationships where it's a power struggle on one side or the other, and there's equality in your relationships. There's definitely lots of ways to get help besides therapy. There's helplines and there's text lines, different organizations that also help. if a person is not ready to kind of go down the therapeutic process.
Yes. What can someone physically do? And I'll try and chip in here.
Sure.
Um, because breathing is it's important to get on top of your breathing, isn't it? When you're having a panic attack.
Yes. Yes, when you're having a panic attack, it is important to get on top of your breathing. And it's as simple as breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and breathe out for 4. And if you remember the 4-4-4 rule, it will start to calm the vagus nerve in your body. And just stopping and taking those deep breaths. We work with people on a technique that's called like a happy place. And that can be a real place or a make-believe place. And because it's your place and it's a place where people kind of go in their head to visualize that to help calm down and to help regulate their breathing. Another great technique is called grounding, where you use your 5 senses. If you're having high amounts of anxiety and you just can't focus, if you just start going through your senses, name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And you can mix them up. There's no right or wrong on how to do them. Or if you're just so heightened in that moment, even if you're just getting the things that you can see, you will interrupt your brain synapses then because your brain can't focus on being anxious and also naming all the things in the room.
Yes, I found what helped for me was I heard about this thing called mindfulness.
Hmm.
It sounded a bit airy fairy to me at the time, even though I was actually working as a substance misuse specialist in a in
Hmm.
a clinic at the time, and so I shouldn't have been so dismissive, really, because when I learnt what it was, um, and I started to use it, it was a very powerful tool. And I think with a lot of this stuff, it it never does any harm if you adapt these therapies and strategies to what works for you.
Hmm.
So what I would do when I drive to work in the car and I've got a particularly sort of stressful environment to go into, I would just I would zone it all out. And for me, I was tuning into the universe.
Hmm.
And as such, when you become universe, everything else drops away because that's not important.
Yeah.
The petty squabbles of life, and this person's going to say this, and that person's going to do that, and your money might come, or
Hmm.
you have to pay this, or it's none of it's going to kill you, is it? It's
No,
literally none of it is going to hurt you in any way. It's just all noise.
it is. Yes.
So I wouldn't obviously shut my eyes because I'd be driving, but I would be sort of.
Hmm. Hmm.
And now I just turn that to sort of meditation by. I could be sat in this chair and sometimes I just got to switch off. And I just do that, Tanya, and I shut off. I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
If a thought
Hmm.
comes in my head, I just let it go. And I just
Hmm.
enjoy being still and nothing. And I've
And
kind of
that's,
I developed that into when you love yourself enough and you love your family and there's what you've set up for yourself, excuse my
mhm,
language, but fuck anything coming in and ruin that for you, whether that's a person, a
exactly.
situation. Screw that. No,
Hmm.
you haven't earned the right to come in to
Hmm.
my kind of metaphysical space. and
Exactly.
and it really, I'm finding that's got quite powerful for me.
And sometimes it's giving people permission. Like sometimes people need to hear it. So I'm really glad that kind of you brought it up and we're talking about it because it is okay. And if you make people mad, oh well, then those people aren't really meant to be in your life. If those people walk away, those are not the people that care about you and that you want, so to speak, in your own, you know, bubble of space to mess that up, like you said. And people will show you who they really are. And it's okay to have the courage to do that. Like, you're not a bad person. You're not doing something wrong in those situations. You are just, like you said, you're protecting your mindfulness and your peace.
Yeah, I'll just come in there and say, friends at home, if you're considering severing ties with someone, and I strongly suggest, that's a good way for. If someone doesn't respect you, they're not your friend. You
Hmm.
know, a friend will maybe disagree with you, but that's fine.
Yeah.
They won't actually try and sort of tear you down for it. And all I was going to say is, if you are going to sever ties with someone, if you can do it as you kind of like, you can do that thing on social media where you stay friends, but you just don't see any of their
Yeah.
shit. I would
Yep.
suggest doing that, folks, because otherwise, when it comes to meeting them, it can
Hmm.
then just trigger off all your stress going, oh, frick, I unfriended this guy, a year
Yeah.
ago and we've known each other. I mean, some of these people I've known 30 years.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, is that a good a
It
good tip?
is. It really is a good tip because sometimes it's just more not engaging. It's not so much in the words that you say, but like you said, the actions that you do for yourself. So if you are friends with them on social media or, just not responding as much or in engaging with them as much or blocking it out. Um, and then it doesn't bring up those massive triggers for you if you have to encounter them again and the confrontation that it might present then.
What would you say then, Tanya, to someone who's drinking too much? And let's be honest, anything more than a drink a night, really, or a couple of drinks a week is, can have a
Hmm.
devastating, highly damaging effect on your life, and different effects on you at different times in your life, and different effects on different people, right?
Hmm.
So you get this. I found this a lot in my own coaching. Is you'll get people that are drinking a lot, smoking weed every day, and then complaining that they've got anxiety or they're getting
Hmm.
depressed or this kind of thing. What would we be saying there?
I would ask them, what are they trying to forget? Like when you're doing these substances and you're getting that temporary feeling of relief, what is the relief from? What does that do for you in terms of providing that temporary relief? Like, what is it that makes it temporarily go away? And I would also work with them and tell them that it is temporary. So the two, three drinks that you have a night to forget the anxiety. When you wake up in the morning, you're just going to continue to need more and more of it because it's still going to be there. Like your body's like, hey, temporary coping skill. Here I am again. And so the more and more that you're going to need it and want it.
Yeah, absolutely, and also the come down off the. I mean, off any
Hmm.
drug, whether it's alcohol or whatever, you've totally destroyed your natural energy, haven't you?
You have,
I mean, you're
yes.
poisoned. Is essentially.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I guess I mention this because I think most people would find if you knock the booze on the head and everything else,
Mhm.
within 3 days you're going to be feeling a different person. You know,
Yes. You
Yeah,
are, because it will reduce those feelings of anxiety and that those withdrawal symptoms. And um, if you start to put healthier coping skills in place, you will feel very, very different.
exercise,
Mhm. Exercise
breathing,
is,
getting air in your
yeah,
lungs, moving your body.
hobbies, things that you enjoy. Some people, enjoy bowling. Some people enjoy golf. Some people enjoy movies with friends, having dinner parties. Some people love pets. Pets are also a huge source of comfort in being able to, have to sustain another living being's life. Um, Exercising, running, um, moving, swimming. There's the gamut of different things. And I think it's finding what you truly enjoy, that it shouldn't feel like something you have to do, but it's bringing you some kind of peace and joy to your life.
Yes, it's it's you time, isn't it, or me time?
Yes. Uh-huh.
It's that special. I mean, I love it. I find if when I get up in the morning, if at the very least, if I can't go for a run or I can't go for a swim or I can't go to the gym, and that's because maybe I've got an appointment very early on in the day, I at least go
Hmm.
and walk around the block
Hmm.
because I just need that time to love life and love myself. Sounds a
Yeah,
bit weird, doesn't it?
absolutely.
But you know,
It
it's
doesn't
just
sound weird at
great.
all.
It's just great to get out and love life and just. I
Yeah.
like to walk around when no one else is up,
Hmm.
and I listen to a podcast. Always try
It's
and learn.
peaceful.
Always trying to learn something. I listen to a lot of scriptural decodes because
Hmm.
I find that quite fascinating, especially as a lot of it relates to the body's endocrine system, which is
Yeah.
ultimately what produces these chemicals that kind of
Hmm.
make can keep us balanced. So yes, friends, there you go. So if you're out there and you're feeling a bit down, Tanya and I have come up with some really simple things.
Yeah.
Always take action, because if you hide away, everything just
It
it
does. Gets
it either
worse.
stays the same or it can get worse. If you take
Hmm.
action, you show life you're the boss, don't you?
You
You
do.
have the power.
Yes.
Make your bed. There you go. Look, you've won the day already. You've shown.
Yep.
Yeah. And then
Take a shower.
shower. Yeah. It's it's funny, isn't it, that our personal hygiene is the first thing to go when we're not quite
Mhm.
feeling
Yeah.
well, and yet it's also to the other side of the coin. If you're not feeling well, go and have a shower and a haircut and a shave, brush your
Hmm.
teeth, bang, you feel $1 million.
Hmm.
Yes. How come then? It, this sort of stuff, like I say, it came to me late on in life,
Hmm.
and it kind of my you know heavy drug use over the years undoubtedly brought it brought it on. But what I
Hmm.
feel for Tanya, and I know you've got experience in this, is when you have it in children,
Hmm. Yes.
anxious children, and what's the reasons behind that? I'm guessing possibly having an anxious parent is probably not helpful.
Having an anxious parent, yes, or anxiety that runs in families, definitely is not helpful. But we live in a very much so more fast-paced world now, where children have much more access to the media, and YouTube and different games that they play through Minecraft, Roblox, on the Xbox. Things tend to be very violent in nature now. And the things that these kids are exposed to, if you even look at the culture of school shootings, even going to school isn't safe. When I went to school, and I'm not terribly old, we did tornado drills. We didn't do lockdown drills. But now we live in a society where lockdown drills are necessary. So kids are faced with so much more pressure, peer pressure, pressure to fit in, bombarded with different things in the media that they don't understand, that we don't talk to them about often. And it can create a very fearful world for them to live in.
Yes. And I think the psychopaths that think they're in charge of this world, they love all this stuff, you know?
They do.
I think
Yes.
the one thing they love is a traumatized child because
Hmm.
they know that they've got them for life then, you know? They've
Yes.
got them on the
Hmm.
alcohol, the drugs, the rubbish diet,
Hmm.
the believing the everything they see on the news. Um,
Hmm.
you know, they've got the next load of people to send off to war to fight their corrupt battles. Um,
Hmm.
and and of course, people that are broken tend to buy a lot of stuff, don't they? To you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
in capitalist society, what do you do to try
Hmm.
and fix everything? Well, you buy more stuff, don't you? So
Hmm.
yes, folks, I'm flagging this all up because again, relating it to our country and our situation over here at the moment, there's there's so much that we can be doing before we
Hmm.
even go out the front door to
Yeah.
be addressing the low vibrational energy state in which this nation finds itself. And I think one of the problems with trauma, Tanya, is playing the victim, isn't it? You know, it's
Hmm.
if other people would do this, and if the leaders would just do this, and if the military would just come to our rescue, and it's like, hang on a sec, what, but what are you doing
Yeah.
to raise, to what are you doing to raise the energy? You sat there, you
Hmm.
want all this change, and yet you're drinking a bottle of wine every night. You're being vile to people over the internet,
Hmm.
and you're watching rubbish on your TV. What's going on here? How's this supposed to work? So yes, so yes, so we outlined the factors that can make for not a particularly pleasant childhood and one that leads to anxiety. How do you approach therapy then with children?
Therapy with children is definitely very heavily rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy. So we work on self-esteem skills, we work on those autonomic negative thoughts to rework them into positive thoughts and thinking. And it's very much so like adults as we teach them to love themselves and to be their own person. And that it's okay to stand up for themselves and not be afraid to do so. We teach them mindfulness. We do a lot of mindfulness teaching with children for relaxing their bodies and teaching them deep breathing and grounding so that when they are in these situations, whether it be at school, in the community, in their homes, they have a basis to be able to calm themselves down.
Yes, and do you find is there a particular type of background that children who are suffering mental health conditions come from? Is it to do with the parents, or is it just the factors that
Well,
you
mental
said?
health is often genetic, so it can come from your parents, your grandparents, anywhere in a family line of mental health issues. Now, how bad a mental health issue gets exacerbated is going to be environment.
Yeah.
The type of environment that they live in, if there's a lot of chaos in the family, if there's any type of abuse going on for them, that will exacerbate a situation. So while mental health does genetically get passed from parent to child, circumstances definitely will determine how bad their mental health will get.
Yes. And are you, does this kind of a, therapeutic approach with children, does it have much success?
Yes, we do find a lot of success with cognitive behavioral therapy in children. We use cognitive behavioral therapy with traumatized children. And we find once they, complete about 6 months of therapy, they're functioning a whole significant amount better than when they walked into the therapy room.
Good, good. And Tanya, moving on to depression, because that's another weird one.
Hmm.
Again, I just use myself as an example. I didn't know what, I honestly didn't know what it was until, well, I knew what drug related depression was because that's called having a
Hmm.
come down. And when you have a
Hmm.
chronic substance misuse problem, then you have some
Hmm.
chronic come downs, and we're talking months, probably over a year. I was chronically depressed. I didn't know what depression was though, because no one had, mental health wasn't talked about when I was young. No one really knew
Right.
what it was. If your
Hmm.
mum was suffering some sort of, you know, neurological problem, she went off to the doctor and she'd have some pills. You'd never see them, but
Right.
you later learn when you're an adult that your mum was popping pills all your life and this sort of thing. So I just didn't know. I just used to know I had an overwhelming lack of energy for anything, and the future just seemed so bleak, except when I could go out and score something, and then it was the complete opposite. Then I was hyper and everything just seemed great. Well, temporarily great. But the point I'm getting to is I went away to school in Norway. This is where I trained to become a volunteer development instructor to go and work in Africa. And I was at this school in Norway for 6 months. This kind of like, you know, international community college, and it was in a mountain hotel on. It was in a ski lodge, an old ski lodge on top of a mountain, and it was great. There was 70 international students all running round from different countries around the world. We all got on great. There was no drugs, no alcohol policy there, so that was no issue. And we used to have tea and cake in the afternoon, which was just, everyone looked forward to the tea and cake. I
Yeah.
never thought I'd say that. And anyway, I found I was getting misunderstood. Or no, I found, sorry, someone said this to me in Hong Kong once. They said, "Chris, no, not it's not you don't understand the people, it's that the people don't understand you," right? And this is what was happening at this community college, Tanya, is that
Hmm.
I started to feel like isolated in myself, and
Hmm.
as a result, I just take myself away and I go and sleep in my room. And
Mm.
sorry, I'm making a bit of hash of
No,
explaining it. I'm just
it's
trying to
okay.
explain for our friends at home that for the
Yeah.
first time in my life, putting the party scene to one side, I was
Hmm.
experiencing depression.
Yeah.
You know, I like I like I got it, and
Hmm.
Yeah, is what is depression then?
Depression is like a profound sadness that just doesn't leave, or just a profound numbness that really does not leave you. So, like, no matter what you do, in terms of being with people, I've heard people describe it as I could be with a whole group of my friends and still feel completely alone. And you could be in a crowded room at school or, at a party and still feel just this profound sense of aloneness and numbness or sadness. It can often then manifest into, sleeping too much because people don't like that feeling and not knowing how to make that feeling go away. And that is really kind of where depression comes from. It's also a chemical imbalance of your brain. Um, so it can genetically be passed down as well.
Yeah, that's when you said that. That's what I was thinking. That all these factors go together to mean you're not in a good place, and as such, your brain isn't producing the right chemicals, whether that's
Hmm.
serotonin or DMT or these kind of things. Yeah.
Hmm.
Ah, right. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Um, how do you, when people come to you with depression, do you find that people actually come to you, or did people come
I
to you
do.
when they're coming out of it?
No, I find that people come in the middle of it a lot of I find that especially adults will come and say, I just have all this anxiety and all this depression and I just don't know what to do, or I just can't take it anymore. Not to the point where they're suicidal, but it's now impacting their life in heavier ways, whether it's work or, their personal lives, in friendships, in marriages, in relationships, where it's just now kind of taking over. And that's really like the peak of anxiety and depression is when it starts to take over so much that now you can notice that noticeable shift in your life, where it's affecting everything that you do. So oftentimes that's when people will seek out therapy or come into therapy. Most often they'll go to their primary care doctors first. Um, and doctors will often recommend going to therapy to help.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, just I'm getting sort of reminiscences of that feeling of disconnection with the world, and
Hmm.
I yeah, I feel quite lucky because having come sort of away from that, I find that if for whatever reason I'm going back there a bit, I can deal with it much better now. I know it's
Hmm.
just it's it's temporary. Go away, treat yourself. Sit on the
Yeah.
couch, watch some rubbish. You know, watch a rubbish
Hmm.
film, and just just don't kind of let it get under the skin, so to speak. But obviously, when people are experiencing it before any kind of therapy, whether that's like my case, I've always been my own sort of therapist, but
Hmm.
or regular therapy like you offer, Tanya.
Hmm.
um the future must seem awfully bleak.
It does. And until people kind of learn that they can come out of it and different ways to come out of it and what works for them, because one thing doesn't work for everybody, then they don't have that hope that it's ever going away. But as you said, now you're much more equipped to, when it does come on, to be able to handle that. So whether it's PTSD or anxiety or any or type of depression, once people learn some adequate skills and learn what works for them and see that they can come out of it, when they're re-triggered or re-experience these feelings, they're much more able to kind of bring themselves out of it.
And I guess with all these conditions, if I can call them that,
Mhm.
a lot of it is underpinned by your childhood makeup.
It can be, yes.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, if you've grown up, you've got a bit of a downer on yourself anyway. It wouldn't be surprising if you're more predisposed to get depressed in later life.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're used to kind of, I don't know, maybe like running away from your problems or self-medicating
Mhm.
or burying your head in the sand, that's kind of not that happy get up and
Yeah.
go kind
Go
of,
feeling. Yeah.
that you need to kind of get out of a depression or something. Okay,
Mhm.
so if I was to come to you or someone came to you and they said,
Mhm.
Tanya, I'm empty, I feel void, I don't want to do anything, I'm in a job, I hate it, you know, um, I can't feel any sort of love for my family, even though that they're there for me, and you know, all the sort of signs of depression. What, how do you, how do you go about interacting with them, and what's your therapeutic approach?
So the first step is kind of the intake process, which is kind of a deep dive into um, pretty much everything. So, family history, your childhood, experiences you've been through. It's a lot of questions, in the very first session that we meet. And then once you can gather all of that history and that full picture understanding, it's starting with, a lot of psychoeducation on understanding what a client um, understands about depression or anxiety or PTSD and helping them to understand it more of so we start to build up that feeling of okay, I'm not broken. There's something intricately like going wrong with my thinking process right now in my brain, but there are ways that we can help. I use cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy. I also use different art techniques with kids, but I do them with adults too if they happen to enjoy that type of medium. I'm also going to be in October starting to offer EMDR, which is eye movement rapid desensitization, which helps with PTSD and anxiety and depression of helping to reverse those thoughts in the brain and s- rewire the brain, so to speak, um, into understanding that it's safe. So I kind of present all the options to everybody, and I give them a lot of psychoeducation in the first couple of sessions, and I ask them what they'd be willing to try out with me and work on, and what is it important to them to be able to work on, and where would they like to be. So we can kind of make a tailored approach that is going to meet their needs, not anybody else's agenda. Definitely, therapy should never be a therapist's agenda. It should always be very client-centered and person-centered in what is the client looking for and how do we get there. So it may not be that one size fits all, which is why I tend to use several modalities. So if one is not appealing to a client or it doesn't work for a client, there's some other different ones to fall back on.
It's a bit tough offering, well, working with clients because you, you must have experienced this. I've certainly experienced it many times. They'll rock up, they'll
Hmm.
have one session with you, and then you never see them again, and it leaves you feeling a bit like, oh God. And then I'm obviously worldly wise enough to go, no, that's probably where they are. They
Yeah,
there's a lot of resistance to change there,
sure.
and in a therapeutic relationship, it's you've you've got to come to the table willing to take a bit, and be told,
Hmm.
wait, look, this. you know, if you come to therapy and your therapist or in my case, your coach says, "Oh, you're awesome, you're great, you're fine, literally perfect the way you're such a wonderful, you're everything's," then you haven't got anything to work on, have you, or to learn,
Exactly.
or to get over. So have you experienced that sort of thing? Was
Yes. So I've had clients who, like you said, they'll come to one or two sessions and then they're just in the wind. And so that feeling of I have to reframe it of okay, they're not ready. They're not ready to kind of change or work on things, or things are just a little too scary right now that it really doesn't have anything to do with me. I also have had clients who come in and are just stuck in the nothing will work mentality. Oh, I've tried this, I've tried that. It doesn't work. So we're stuck in these stages of change where they're not ready to take that next step or maybe not open to hearing about it. So we have to work much more on rapport building to get them into, okay, how can we get you into the next stage of change where you actually want to work on yourself? And that can take some weeks of therapy that they kind of attend and until the light bulb goes off. Sometimes it goes off for people and sometimes it doesn't. And then you get those clients who come in and are just like gung ho and really willing to work and, um, are just all in. But I do have to say, no matter which form you're coming in, um, it's okay. Like it's okay to be where you're at in that moment.
yes, absolutely. And I'll just add to that and say it takes time.
Hmm.
Change
Definitely.
takes time. I mean, we've if you start coming to therapy or whatever, even at 30 years old, that's 30 years of really
Hmm.
powerful conditioning you've had that's taken
Yeah.
you slightly the, let's just call it, down a challenging path, and
Hmm.
it takes time to sort of bring it around again. I know that because even as I sit here now, I'm really making some good gains. I just feel it. I just feel
Hmm.
in myself. Life's just so much. Everything just gets better and better. But I've stuck at it. I've
Hmm.
really had to look myself in the mirror and think, right, you know, this has got to go. That's got to go. That's not helping. This
Hmm.
reacting in this way, just stop it. And yeah, I just say to anyone out there, be patient, be kind to yourself, just but commit,
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
yes. Tanya, we're going to put all your links below the video.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you
Please,
for having me and talking about these important topics.
yes, please give my best wishes to Virginia, as in the state, folks. We're not talking a friend here or something. As I said, yes, I had a great time in Norfolk, Virginia. Very long time ago now, though. That must have been nearly 35 years ago, although it seems just like yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hopped in a hire car. It took us 2.5 hours to drive out of the naval base.
Oh, wow.
The naval base in the town I live in, you can drive through it in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Everything's so much bigger in America.
It is, yes.
Yeah, it was incredible. And we drove up to Washington and saw all the memorials and the White House, and back then they used to have guys that were kind of protesting about the prisoners of war left behind in Vietnam. I
Hmm.
I don't think there was much truth in that. The Vietnamese are not that nasty.
Hmm.
They would have kept
Yeah.
prisoners for another what would it be? Would have been 30 years. But
Hmm.
yes, amazing, wonderful, wonderful people, the Americans.
Hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Right, friends at home, Tanya, just stay on the line so I can thank you properly after I've just played us
Sure.
out. But we'll put all your links below. Folks, don't be backwards in coming forward. Remember, every time you take action, universe gives you back. And it might be, you could come to me for life coaching and think, nah, Chris, you know, it's not for me at this moment in time, or you're not. That doesn't matter. The fact is, you're gonna learn something from it that takes you to the next stage in your journey. So please like and subscribe, folks. Massive
Mhm.
thank you to everyone that supports me on Locals, Patreon, or just becomes a YouTube member. $1.99 with lots of perks, including free VIP tickets to my annual events. And one last thing, massive thank you to everyone that's chipped in a fiver for my upcoming Mount Everest summit to shine a light for struggling veterans, but also to raise awareness of this all important link between childhood trauma and the veterans' mental health crisis that we're seeing. Much love.